In order to use the case study method effectively, the following are the steps which a presenter may follow. 1. Identify a situation either in a company or any other establishment or institution where something significant has happened and whose repercussions may make a good lesson at a seminar. 2. Go with available records or the comprehensive facts of the situation and record these for your presentation. 3. Prepare the copies to be presented, making sure a greater portion of the background history of the case is presented along. 4. Distribute copies of the case without the solution or other comment with the process raised for the participant to have time to examine before the actual time of presentation. 5. At the appropriate time, present the case and allow the participant to react to your process and, of course, ask questions. Usually, case presentations are always lively as most participants are able to imagine themselves in the various roles or contexts that the cases present. There are, however, a few things which presenters must guard against when using the case study method to present their views. These are listed below. 1. Never use invented cases to drive home a point. This is because invented cases have ways of resulting in the cases not being adequately solved. Sometimes the author of an invented case becomes entangled in the web B himself has tried to create. This is because he may be asked questions which are normal fallouts from the case, but which there may be no logical answer to. The jigsaws would not just fit into place. 2. Avoid using abbreviated cases. Even though they may not be fictitious, abbreviated cases may become enlarged again as questions are asked about some loose ends. It is likely that as time goes on, the presenter will find out that what he has on his hand is not the originally large case brought back to its former position, but an entirely new case different from the formerly shortened one for which he had created some posers. 3. Avoid the use of audio-visual case presentations if you can. The lack of written material to back it up may make participants to request for a replay of the tape as many times as possible to fill in the gaps in memory. This leads to an unnecessary extension of time needed. Also, the real case presenters on the tube cannot be questioned. Where cases are acted, there may be flaws in the acting which tend to blunt some edges in the true story. The disadvantages of the case study method allows for another method that will be more encompassing. Hence, we have the role-play method. The role-play method. The role-playing method is an educational technique in which some problem involving human interaction, real or imaginary, is presented and then spontaneously acted out. This method involves a course member playing the role of someone else in a situation as near situation at work. Although this method is good at training and reconditioning the attitude of participants towards others and developing skills of problem solving and creative thinking, it is not at imparting facts and principles. The purpose of role-playing method is to give participants a chance to experience such situations in a controlled setting. Trainees are provided with a description of the context, usually a topic area, a general description of a situation, a description of their roles, and the problem they each face. Once the participants have read their role descriptions, they act their roles by interacting with one another. Structured role play provides trainees with more detail about the situation as well as more detailed description of each character's attitudes, needs, and opinions. This type of role play is used generally to develop interpersonal skills such as communication, conflict resolution, and group decision making. Spontaneous role plays are loosely constructed interactions in which one of the participants plays him or herself while the others play people with whom the first trainee has interacted in the past. Goldstein, 1993. Role-playing is most commonly used for social and human relations education. The purpose of role-play is to put participants in a simulated social relationship with a view to 1. Widening their understanding of a particular problem or situation. 2. Changing their attitudes. 3. Practice skills. They are related to case studies, but they involve individual human beings and their behavior or interaction is dramatized. The learners may participate as role players or as observers depending on the objectives of the particular role play. Among those who benefit in this regard are supervisors, sales personnel, and industrial relations personnel. The method may be used to develop human relations skills, sales techniques, interviewing procedures, grievance handling methods, and performance review issues. According to Wallace Walkin, role-playing could take the form of single role plays, multiple role plays, role rotation, or the spontaneous role plays. In the single role play, 2 or 3 people act for the others to see and later pass their comments. The multiple one allows for more than one group of participants to be involved and may in fact look like a drama sketch for others, and even members of the playing group can watch. In the role rotation, an individual attempts to deal with a problem and is later replaced by another who attempts to deal with the same problem, possibly in another way. The spontaneous role play is not like the others where the players study a written script after which they play their roles. Rather, they are called based on a problem seen in the group and asked to enact an appropriate solution given scene. A typical use of the role-playing method by the trainer follows this pattern. In a single role-playing process, 1. The trainer reads aloud information from the general instruction sheet which all role players individually should know. 2. The volunteer single role players or the selected ones then leave the room with their role briefing sheets given to them and with instructions that they should not discuss with anybody. Observer sheets are later passed to those in the hall. 3. The instructor later checks with the role players to clarify any problems they may have with their briefing sheets. 4. The trainer then asks the role players to take their positions in front of the class, advising them to stay within their roles. 5. At the beginning of the role play, the trainer briefs the audience again about the roles being played by the individuals and then asks them to start. He briefly describes the first action. 6. Where a role player is missing out in his role, the trainer cues him or her. Where this becomes persistent, he seeks the former's permission to involve the class and changes the format of the role play. In making use of the role play method, trainers should be fully aware of the dynamics and may need to consider whether there are not some other simpler ways of ensuring that the trainees get the message they want to get across, which is more important than the use of the method itself. The next method we will be considering is games and simulations. Games and simulation. A simulation is an imitation or a representation of an actual physical or social situation reduced to manageable proportions to serve a specific purpose. A gaming simulation, according to Coppard, is the combination of a game and a simulation. A game is described by him as a formalized activity consisting of two or more participants whose aim is to meet their objectives within the limitation of a set of rules which are adhered to as the game runs its course. Simulations are usually also games involving many of the elements which we associate with other kinds of games. There are goals to be achieved, rules to be observed, usually some form of competition, and they are fun to play. It is not always possible or convenient to let learners experience the real thing, at least in the early stages of a program, e.g., a new system in a government department. Training games and simulations are designed to reproduce or simulate processes, events, and circumstances that occur in the trainee's job. Trainees can experience this event in a controlled setting area where they can develop their skills or discover concepts that will improve their performance. Many organizations also develop games that are designed to introduce or reinforce important concepts. These games often involve group participation so that the team members working in harmony are required to make decisions or formulate a course of action that will help resolve a particular problem or create opportunity for the organization. The most important part of this training is not the activities in which the participants engage, but processing the result when the game is completed. Newman and Hodgetts, 1998-195. Vestibular training, business games in basket exercises, case studies, role plays, sensitivity training, and behavior modeling are the methods used in games and simulations. Vestibular training involves the virtual duplication of work environment in an off-site setting. Simulation exercises place the trainee in an artificial environment that closely imitates actual working conditions where the trainer demonstrates on the same kind of machine and using the same procedures that trainees will use on the job. The theory is that if managers or employees are faced with similar situations, even if they were simulated, they will be more likely to make the right decisions. Woods, 1995. Business games are another form of simulations that participants learn how to deal with a variety of issues in a simulated business environment. Trainees are provided with information describing a situation and are asked to make decisions about what to do. The system then provides feedback about the impact of their decisions, and they are asked to make another decision. This process continues until some predefined state of the organization exists or specified number of trials has been completed. Blanchard and Tucker, 1998-95. Business games involve element of competition either against other players or against the game itself. The purposes of business games would be strengthening executive and upper management skills, improving decision-making skills at all levels, demonstrating principles and concepts, integrating separate components of training into an integrated whole, exploring and solving complex problems, developing leadership skills. Kaplan and Lubado, Mazik, 1985. It is often necessary to simulate real-life conditions so that the participant can experience the result of his or her mistakes and errors of judgment and learn to avoid them without damaging him or herself or others. Another benefit of simulations is that although the characteristics of the real-life situation are retained, time may be compressed so that results of discussions which normally appear after weeks or months may be examined in a few hours. In all simulation games, the game director, the trainer in charge of the game and responsible for its proper functioning, plays an important part. He or she must be thoroughly conversant with all phases of the game being played. Its purpose, its schedule, that is, what happens next, the roles of the players, the type of interaction that will take place, the point at which conflict is to be expected, the likely outcomes, the probable learning. It is important that the director remain outside the game in the sense that he or she doesn't take part as a player, although in some game. The term simulation is used to describe a presentation of a real-life situation which attempts to duplicate selected components of the situation along with their interrelationships in such a way that it can be manipulated by the user. Perhaps you may now want to think of an example of the Trans Amusement Park near the University of Ibadan or the Apapa Amusement Park in Lagos. I remember a local artist also singing about the Disneyland in one of his records. In all these places, there are examples of simulations of cars, aeroplanes, horse rides, etc. Children enter into model trains and imagine they are really in real trains, while some even drive their cars. These are all simulations. Having understood these examples, a gaming simulation can therefore be seen as a marriage of the game idea with that of a simulation. Imagine what happens when people play the business game called Monopoly. In this game, people buy houses on Oxford Street, pay rent on lines, go to jail and are in fact dispossessed of their property as they eventually lose out in the capitalist game. Note that all the streets and parks exist in real life in London, but when the game is played with money even shared out to start the business, players imagine themselves as businessmen and they want to buy up all the assets of their competitors. The same ideal that informs the choice and use of Monopoly in this regard is what a gaming simulation is all about in training. It is for the trainer to use his skills in appropriate games that could fit into his training. He may in fact make use of existing games that have been designed for this purpose. This is, however, not commonly used in Nigeria yet. Where the trainer can use it, the idea can help in sales training or other accounting-related courses. The discussion method. This method is useful where the number of group members is kept small and they have a reasonably good knowledge of the subject matter. It is a good method of trainee involvement and participation in the course program, and it is good for skill development in information shifting, for problem solving and decision making purposes. However, if not properly handled, trainees or discussants could drift into discussing irrelevant issues. The best method to avoid this is for the leader to guide the discussants throughout, leading them through the important areas till they reach the right conclusion. It is also important for the group to write a report of their decisions for the review of the appropriate body. In order to encourage participation by all, the leader should ensure that no member monopolizes contributions and invite the silent ones to contribute. Discussion refers to the general exchange of ideas among two or more people. Two things have to be considered when deciding on a group discussion. These are 1. Group size, how many participants work together. 2. Group interactions, how the participants work together in free or directed discussion. The group size is dictated both by the interaction desired and by a host of practical and economic factors, many of which might be beyond the control of the trainer. Usually, the decision to have group discussions is a trade-off between the theoretically desirable and the practically feasible. The main point of group discussion is that learning occurs through the interchange among the group members. The participant can check his or her ideas with those of others. Discussion encourages learning activity and gives the learner a sense of responsibility for learning. It helps participants to feel free to take the initiative and participate, and can build up their self-esteem of the participants because each person's contribution is potentially worthwhile. It allows the experiences of advanced participants to be shared. It can also have the opposite effect and be intimidating to learners. The trainer can lead the group or simply be a group member, though such participation must be genuine and accepted as valid by the group. A trainer who leads group discussion needs to be skilled in group dynamics, who encourages cooperative rather than competitive interactions. He or she needs to be able to summarize skillfully, remembering who contributed the main point, be able to think quickly, adapt, accommodate, be able to predict student response and build upon this, and to be prepared to learn the background of the student. A problem for trainers is the desire to intervene when false information is introduced and accepted by the group. Ideally, such intervention is best done not by a lecture but by subtle questions. Although group discussion maintains interest and avoids monotony, it is very time-consuming and may require lengthy preparation of questions, handouts, and backup aids in case discussion lags. It lies at the core of seminar and workshops. It is the discussion that really gives seminar and workshops their uniqueness and ensures that ideas are expressed. Also, it helps to extend the frontier of earlier presentations, and it allows for the participation of all the members of the group. Discussions come up at various levels of the seminar or workshop. After a seminar presentation, members of the group are allowed to re-examine the issues presented and fully discuss it. At a more formal level, special sessions for group discussions are built into the workshop program. There is usually more than one group for this purpose. The report from each group later help to draw up the resolutions at the end of the seminar or workshop. For group discussions to be successful, the group leader must remember to watch out for the characteristics of group member and use them effectively. Ample opportunities should be given to members of the group to participate. The word discussion denotes an interchange of opinions, a free give and take of views. Mere fact-finding does not qualify as discussion. Genuine discussion takes place as attitudes and feelings toward facts are expressed and as opinions about facts are clarified and compared. Study section summary. In this study session, we examine a number of methods which the trainer might wish to use. Among these are the case study methods, the lecture method, the role-play method, or the gaming simulation method. We explained that most of these methods are very effective where the trainer is equipped to fully use them. This is the end of study section 7. Thanks for listening.